and welcome back again to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, please do click the subscribe button. Today I will be showing you how I made this, what it will eventually turn out to be, which you would have seen at the beginning of the video. I'm going to be using this material to make a peplum top and a pencil skirt. The first part I will be making is the bustier. That's the first part of this video I'm going to be doing, which is the bustier part of the top, and this is what it turned out to look like. And if you want to learn it, I've got you covered. I'm going to show you exactly how I did this. This is after I've cut the neck of the bustier, and this is how it turned out to look like. I'm sure you like it. And after that part, the second part I'll be doing is the back, which I'm going to be using princess dart. You know how to use princess dart with lining? I've got you covered. After the back, I'm going to be doing the peplum, the standing peplum that you saw. Make sure it's very ruffled and beautiful. This is what the steps I did, and this is what it eventually looked like. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a step-by-step tutorial on how I achieved this. The most beautiful part about this cloth, the signature part, is actually the peplum, which after taking it step by step, after this peplum, I'm going to show you how I joined it in the that's the third part of of this style. I'm going to show you how I joined it to the top. That's on the third part. I'm also going to show you how I joined it to the top and then stone the top, and of course add the net hand. This top cloth had a net hand. You might not have noticed it, but if you look closely, you will see that there was a net hand. And then the last part, which is the fourth part of this style that I'm going to be doing, is going to be the skirt, how I cut it, how I joined the skirt. Of course, after cutting, I'm going to be showing you step by step of everything, how I added the lining, traced the lining, made sure it was together and everything. And after this one, I'm going to show you, of course, how the skirt turned out to look like. So stay tuned and watch how we did this. So the first part is the bustier. So let's get into it. So I'm basically trying to fold the cloth into two. As you can see, I drew a line of where the length of the top is. I'm going to be using both paper and material. In case you don't have a material handy, you can find a paper. If you don't know how to sew it, I'm going to paper and cut it at the same time, show you how I applied it to the material at the same time, and do it together. So if you have a paper, grab a paper, because we did this on a paper and we achieved a bustier, which is the first part. You can see we achieved a bustier here. We even, after cutting it, still use needle and thread to sew it to see if it will still give the same result, which it still give. Look at what our bustier turned out to look like. So beautiful, with an exercise book leaf paper. So get one and let's get started right now. You would actually need 2 leaves paper. That's 2 leaves for it, okay, like front and for the front part of the bustier. So I folded my material and took measurements. So I'll be showing you how I took that measurement on the paper as well. So this is what the paper is, a paper with 2 leaves paper. It has we're going to assume measurements because it's an exercise book paper. It has the front, you can see the 2 leaves. We're going to be assuming measurement for this. Since it's just a paper, we cannot use exact measurement of a person's body because the paper width is way less, way less. If you look at the width, is less. So now make sure you have these 2 like this. This is supposed to be the folding part, okay, the folding part of the paper, okay. So I chose to bring it closer for better view. Sorry for the light fluctuation. Okay, so let's start first. Take this, that line you saw me draw was the length of the top. When I took the length from where it was to where I wanted it to stop, that's the length. That's when you take it from the end of the wrapper, you take the length. So let's assume the length here is 8 for the length of this top. Okay, so you will draw a straight line at where your wrapper stops. So if the wrapper is longer, this is where you're taking it from, the measuring from the down to the top to know where your length of your top stops. So basically the next thing you're going to do is to check your shoulder. Now you, after checking the shoulder, we are going to assume the shoulder measurement here. We're going to assume the shoulder measurement, and we're going to assume the shoulder measurement to be, you measured at the top of your top, where your shoulder is supposed to be, where your top is supposed to start. We're going to assume the shoulder measurement to be 2.5. Okay, and of course the allowance, normally you give for clothes like that, you're supposed to, like I'm doing right now, as you can see, I'm giving 2 inches allowance, but here, I mean 4 inches allowance, but here I'm going to give 2 inches because it's a paper, but you just try to understand what I'm trying to achieve here. This is the shoulder, and this is the 2 inches allowance, which is supposed to be 4 inches for this type of top that I am doing right now, because it has a breast cup, you know, and that as well. So I'm going to apply the shoulder measurement to the material. So on the shoulder of this person's shoulder is 16, sorry. So I first of all measured the first line, which was 8. Yeah, so see me measure with chalk, and then give 4 inches allowance. For a bustier top, you're meant to give 4 inches allowance for the armhole on the shoulder side. So I'm going to measure that 8, and then the 4 inches allowance will come out as 12. So I'm also going to mark where 12 stops. So that's exactly what I am doing here right now. So I'm marking at 12. Okay, so now I'm going to start taking the half length measurement. Half length is, you know, going down to check each of the half lengths. Let's say take the half length of the bust. Half length of the bust, let's say it is 3.5. Okay, let's assume that the under bust is 5.5. That's 2 inches more. Then let's assume that the waist is another 2 inches more, which is 7.5. So now for all these lines I just drew, you are going to draw a line. For all these points I just made, you're going to draw a line to know exactly where you're going to use your chalk, you know, or like you're using size book, is your pencil, and draw a line. This is what I'm doing that maybe might not be clear, as you can see on, you know, on the video. So after drawing this line here like this, as you can see, this is the this is the shoulder, beginning of the top. This is the half length of the nipple points of the bust, and this is half length of under bust, and this is half length of the waist, which you take the waist measurement at the navel. Okay, so we are going to be applying the same thing on the material. So you can see I'm taking the half length. For this person, the half length was 12. The person has a bigger, not so big bust, but the big bust, and then the first half length was 12, which was the one at the bust nipple point, and the second half length, which is under bust, was 15. And and I drew a line there, and I also took the waist, which was 18. So I made it 17 because I'm going to put a peplum. Bust, you're going to now take the bust measurement. So let's assume the bust measure. Of course, the bust measurement is what you use in measuring. I didn't say that at the beginning. What you use in measuring how much, you know, you actually fold, and actually how much material you need, because the bust is actually most times the highest for a top, and for a dress the hip or the bust, anyone depending on the person's shape. For a skirt, the hip is the highest measurement. So for this now, let's assume the bust here is 3.5. Let's assume the bust here is 3.5. This is the bust. So I'm marking it, and we're going to add, let's say, 2 inches allowance to, so 3.5, and we add 2 inches, that is 5.5. And so under bust, let's say under bust is 2 inches. Okay, let's assume under bust is, no, 2 inches is too far. Okay, let's say under bust is 3. Okay, and 2 inches is 5. Are you getting? So I'm putting the mark there. That's what you use your chalk to do. But your size book, this is how I'm going to show you. And then you take the half waist. Most times under bust and waist measurements are almost always the same for most people, but not all. So I'm going to be taking the same 3 here. I hope I took the right 3 there. And 5. I think I jumped this line. Let me be sure that was 3 I took. Okay, I want to be sure that I took 3. Most times the difference always in most people's cases are just a little bit less, but this is what you find most times. So I'll be applying the same thing to the material. So I'm measuring the bust. This person's bust is 40 divided by 4 is 10, so I'm going to mark it at 10 and then adding the 4 inches for 14. The 14 is actually the end of this folded part of the clothes because that's the person's measurement. The bust I said is the height, that's what you use in measuring. So I mark 10 and then 14. Okay, so given that as it may, you're going to draw a line. You're going to get your your armhole. That's the next thing you're going to do. So now the armhole is this part you're seeing me doing here. So let's assume the armhole is 2.5, but a armhole for adults that they use in measuring adults is usually 7.5. For some people 8. You can actually measure the armhole if you want to by taking this tape around the person's arm, like under the arm, round it. So let's take this as 2.5. Let's assume it's 2.5, but it's not 2.5 because we're using exercise book then again. And so this is 2.5, and this is where our allowance starts from. So wherever our allowance starts from, even if it starts from here or it starts from here, you will draw the line from this your allowance side, allowance, and you draw it straight like this. So you have your armhole, and then this helps you to know how you do your armhole. So I'm going to turn it to my side, and I'm going to let me take it this way. I hope you're seeing what I'm doing. Let me come closer because I feel you are not seeing me well. Okay, so if you can see, let me go over it again. I said this is your half length. That's the lines I drew. This is your half length waist, half length under bust, and half length bust, which is where your nipple bust is, and this is your shoulder measurement. Yeah, this is your bust measurement, this is your under bust measurement, and your waist measurement. These are the allowance you put depending on the side of top. For this side of top that I'm doing, you need 4 inches, but because it's an exercise book, I'm using 2 inches to explain it. So if you can cut an exercise paper like this, then you can actually cut it. We're going to cut this paper so you can see the exact results. Okay, so doing that as it may, just do as I say. Get a piece of paper and do as I'm saying you should do right now, and see if you're following me and doing the exact thing I'm doing. So now I want to draw that armhole line, which is like a C curve that you're going to curve, just to make sure you're getting the right curve. As you can see, this is the curve now that I'm getting, and yeah, I've gotten the armhole curve, and this is what your curve should look like. Sorry. So I'm going to do the armhole on the material the same way I did on the paper, but I'm going to be using 7.5 for this person, 7.5 because the armhole is 15. Okay, to measure this one. Okay, so just do just the same thing I basically did. I measured 7.5 here, then I marked the point from the allowance of the shoulder. The allowance of the shoulder is when I marked it from. I'm trying to make sure I get to measure that allowance, make sure it's actually from 4 inches, and then after that I make sure I measured it from that allowance. I was trying to get this part well. Then I drew a line down to that 7.5 inch that I had measured. Okay, and then after drawing this line down like this, and I take it straight vertically to the end of the top. Okay, the next thing I want to do now is to do the C curve that I did on the paper, as you saw, and I'm going to do the C curve on the material. As you can see, I'm drawing that C curve on the material. Just exactly, that's how I'm doing it. So I've done that. What next? I'm going to draw a line here. Are you getting me? Draw a line at the allowance. Are you getting? And another line down to where from your under bust to from your under bust to your waist. So now this is the line that you cut, but let me just join these lines, which is the line of the top, so that you get to see the shape. This is it. For some people, this goes in like this, like into this point like this, for some people, but it depends on the measurement that you have. So this is the proper drawing for a top. Okay, for a top. So I was trying to make sure the armhole circle is there. So now I'm going to draw a line at the allowance of the material down at the allowance point, okay, like I did on the paper. And right now we're going to go into cutting it. Okay, we're going to go into cutting it and doing the darts. Okay, so this, no, you do this when you fold it like this, you're actually doing the front. This is half of the front of the top. Okay, so right now we're going to cut this line. What did I say before? I said this is the half, like this is half. When you open it, is a full front top. Okay, so now you're going to carve it out with the folded part. So your wrapper might be very long forward and backward, but this is the part you're taking out. Okay, just this part is what you're taking out. So I'm going to cut this. Okay, there's going to be an inch allowance, 1.5 inch allowance from the, so when you're taking your measurement, you're taking plus 1.5 inch allowance from the top. Okay, so assuming you're just cutting out this side. Okay, so this is how you go about cutting. When you are cutting what they call it, when you are cutting a top, you place your hand on the material like this and cut. But because exercise book, I'm not going to go through that stress right now, because it's easy to cut. Why you place your hand like that is because the material and materials waste time. Okay, so as you can see, I don't know if you can see closer. Okay, as you can see right now, we have cut out the top, and so this is what you have. As you can see, this is your top. This is what your top cutting should look like. Okay, so for us to go further and do what you saw me do, we're going to go ahead and do the cutting of the material. So now I'm carrying scissors to cut off the same way you saw me cut off on the paper, to cut the material. Okay, that's how I'm cutting it, and I'm cutting out all the angles needed to make all the part that I measured out. Just, follow suit and you see the result. Sorry, my light went off when I was done cutting. As I cutting, I folded another material for the back, and I give an extra 2 inches space, more extra space for zip allowance for the back. So you can see there's a line just at the edge that is 2 inches extra here, and then I went ahead to cut it. So for you to do the dart and the breast cup, you're going to measure. So this is, remember, since that's the front, this is your middle. I'm going to use 2.5 inches for the dart. Okay, to do the dart, so we're going to use 2.5 inches. Looking for my pencil. Okay, we're going to use 2.5 inches for this. So we're going to draw a line here on 2.5 inches. We're going to draw a straight line from up to down. This is how to do a normal dart, but this one we're going to be doing breast cup, so this is exactly how you do it. So I'm going to draw a straight line on those dotted lines there. The reason why I just did that, so that I know that I'm following a straight line. Okay, so you draw a straight line and you start doing your breast cup. Now, because you can still use this place here, or maybe we should use that. I think we should use this side so that it will be easy for you and me instead of stressing ourselves. So let's go back to the front part of the top by drawing the line on that same place that I drew from the other side. So I've drawn that line, which is, I'm taking 2.5. Most times you measure the person's nipple point to nipple point. That's the middle. Then these are the sides. Okay, nipple point to nipple point. Okay, so I was saying that before you start, you have to measure the upper bust, and for you to measure upper bust, you can measure the person, but what I do is to take 7 inches off from, as in 7 the under bust minus 7 inches. Okay, will likely give you the upper bust. So if the under bust, let's say, is 15, you're going to minus 7, it will give you 8 inches. So 8 inches above the upper bust. So if this is, I took 1.5 here from here, it's not, of course it's a paper, so I can't use that exact measurement, but I'm just taking just this angle as the upper bust. So just assume this is under bust minus 7. Okay, so this is where your upper bust is, assuming, I know that it is not here, this is a paper, it will not be this high, your upper bust will not be this high actually. So this is specifically the length between the upper and the, you know, the upper bust and under bust. Okay, this is your nipple point, that's the bust itself. Okay, so now going forward, the next thing you're going to have to do is for you to, okay, so going forward from your nipple down, okay, from your nipple point, this is your nipple point, you're going to take, you're just going to draw a line, making sure it starts from, you know, 0 inches to 1 inch. Okay, 0 inches to 1 inch, no, 0 inches to ½ inch, sorry, 0 inches to ½ inch. So we're just assuming that this is ½ inch. This is actually ½ inch anyway. It depends on how busty, like how big the person's bust is. The person's bust is bigger than 0 to 1 inch, and you can see I did the same on the wrapper. I'm about to do the same on the wrapper, as you can see. So I'm taking it from here like this. This is the first part you know you have to do, from nipple point down to this thing here should end up at 1 inch. At the end of this place to this place should be 1 inch. From here to here should be also 1 inch. Okay, now you now, you know, basically draw it down to your, you just draw it down a bit like this, to the end of your clothes. This is to actually give it that breast padded, you know, a space for breast pad, so that, you know, the bust has a space and all that. So now up here you're going to have to draw the same thing, you know, 0 to, by the time it gets here it should be 1 inch, and by the time it gets up it should be 1.5. This is not 1.5 inch. This is assuming this is 1.5 inch. So this is what you're dealing with right now on the two sides of it. Okay, so right now we have drawn our, I'm just trying to draw it out well. Are you getting me? You can see that we have drawn, this is what I did, because I did a straight dart. Okay, a simple straight dart breast pad, top, and this is exactly what we are working with. So what you will now do next after this is to carve out this out. You're carving it out. Okay, you're carving it out, and you can actually give it a curve here if you want, just to curve it. I like curving it anyway, from the upper to the. So now we're going to carve it, and you're going to see what the results are like. Before we carve the paper, let us do the same thing on the material. That's doing the darts and doing the darts and the measurement for that will give us the breast cup side. So right now I'm just making sure the lines that were on the cloth are very bold enough for me to use, and then I am measuring 5 inches because the person's nipple to nipple point is 10, so I'm taking 5 inches from the edge of the cloth to 5 inches extra. You can see that that's the place I'm measuring from here, and I'm just putting it measuring every point of 5 inches to get the line. After that, I'm trying to make sure I get the line. I'm trying to make sure the line is equal and straight. So I'm just using my tape to be sure that I'm on the right place. Then I'm just going to draw a straight line for every point I had made. Sorry, this chalk is not so visible on the cloth. That's why I did the one on paper, so that you can see the visibility. And then just draw a straight line down and up to be equal. So when I was done, I went into drawing the 0 to 1 inch down the first part. As you can see, I drew that line down there. Sorry, it's speedy. And then after drawing the line down there, I drew it down again to the end of the cloth. I don't know if you can see if the lines are clear for you, but it's okay for me. Then I do another 0 to 1 inch up, and on the two sides, to make sure the two sides are 0 to 1 inch. And then when you take it to the upper part, it should go from 1 inch to 1.5 inch. That's just it. It's just adding itself by ½ inch. Now, if you don't understand, I mean from the nipple point upper bust is 0 to 1 inch. From the upper bust to the top part is 1 inch to ½ inch. So from the nipple point to the under bust is 0 to 1 inch. From the under bust to the waist is 1 inch to ½ inch. So I'm just making sure the lines are very clear here, and making sure they are straight. It's not it's just going on a straight like a C, and that is visible enough for me to cut it out. Now I'm going to cut out the dart line that we drew, that the sides of it. As you can see, I'm cutting out that part to give you the beauty of the breast cup and make the bustier very obvious. So having done this, okay, you can see that we have done, this is the middle and these are the sides. So these are the sides. Let me show you. You can see it is exactly the same thing with what I have carved out on my material. Are you seeing this? So on material, I will show you, what the results end up turning out to look like. If you sew this with hand needle and thread carefully so that it doesn't tear, you will see that it will give you that bust, line basically, and then you would see the result of what you are looking for. But let's sew it with hand needle and then get back and see what the result came out like with hand needle and thread. Yes, with hand needle and thread. So before we use hand needle and thread, we're going to go to the material. We're going to cut out that line. You see that line there? Yeah, that's what we're going to cut out to give you the same beauty we give on the paper, and pad it. After this, we're going to pad it with the breast cup. Pad the lining with gum stay, and then come back to the paper. So let's cut this out. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm cutting it out totally out. So this is what it after cutting, this is what it turned out to look like. You can see it's similar to the paper. This is the middle, and then that's the side, sorry. Then this is the middle part that I'm opening right now. I'm just going to arrange it the same way I arrange the paper for you to see. This is the middle again, then this is the side. Now I'm going to open the two sides together. See, this is the side, exactly paper is, and yeah, that's just exactly how it is. This is the part you're supposed to sew together, but before we sew it, we have to add, breast cup, and then breast breast cup. We're going to add breast cup. Yes, it's called breast cup pad. Is a pad, breast pad, sorry, not breast cup. We're going to add breast pad to it. Okay, then I'm just arranging it exactly the way it is. Now I want to use this and trace the lining. Okay, so you have to use this to trace the lining for the cloth. Now we have the lining here. I'm using red lining to pop the material color. This is what I'm using, and then I'm going to fold it the way I folded the top, and then trace it out. So that's exactly what I'm about to do. I'm going to trace out the middle and the sides, just the same way. Yes, the middle of the top, that's exactly where it is. Just, you're going to see it. Let me just show you. Let me not talk anymore. So I just folded a small part and placed this one here, place the middle part. This is the middle, which I want to trace out, and that's exactly what I'm about to cut it off and trace it out with scissors. So I'm using scissors to trace it out. As you can see, I'm tracing out the middle part. This is what it looks like. I'm folding it and setting aside, and I'm going to do the same to the sides of it. I'm going to trace out each of them. You can trace the two at the same time, but I want to trace each of them out separately to give me exactly what it is that I want. That is, I want it to give me what I want. So this is what it turned out to look like. This is the second one, the second side. This is the middle, and this one here is the first side that I did. Yeah, the first one of the side, the first part of the side. These are the three of them. I kept them together. This is what it looks like, just in case you are wondering. This is the part you're going to bring them out separately and pad them up. So to pad it, you're going to measure the upper bust and the under bust again. Remember, I say you take 7 inches, 8 inches minus the upper bust. So the under bust is 15, and the upper bust will now be 7. So now I'm marking 7 and 15. That's what I'm marking here. The under bust is 15 minus 8. You can see I'm marking the 15 clearly. Although it's on the body of the cloth, I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to notch it with scissors to give me the line of where the breast part that I'm going to pad is going to stop. So this is place and folding is where I want to notch it, scissors with. You can see I just notch it a little bit, just a little bit. So whilst I'm going to use breast pads for the top, I'm going to use gum stay for the lining. Now this is gum stay that I have folded into 2, and I want to measure for the 2 sides. Okay, for the sides. Now for the sides, I'm measuring 8, which is the length that we notch on the cloth, and then this side is 5, which is nipple point, half of the nipple point. So this is 5 here that I'm measuring, and then I'm going to go to the middle of the 8 to draw a C curve. Now I'm putting at the middle is supposed to be 4, so I'm going to notch and putting points at 3.5 and 4.5. That is, which is in between 4, to draw a C curve to get the breast pad side for the sides of the lining. I'm using gum stay for the lining, not breast pad for the lining. Breast pad will be for the top. So you can see I'm drawing the C curve. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm drawing a C curve. If you don't understand this part, don't worry. Wait, I'm going to do again on the breast pad. So just watch and understand. So I'm trying to make sure the C curve is very, very bold. I'm using a pen here. You can use a chalk. I wanted to use a pen so that it's easy for me to know how to cut it without having issues, and make sure they are equal. The sides on the edges, they are equal. It's very important. Now, to confirm if they're equal, you can use a tape to measure how many lengths from the space of where your C curve is. Your C curve is supposed to give you at least about 1/2 inch from the edge, or 1.5 to 2 inches from the edge. That's where it's supposed to stop. Just like it's not C to the end, it's C to a certain point here that is straight. And then you cut out the circle. Remember, it's folded into two, so it's actually for the two sides. When you fold it into two, it's actually for the two sides, for the left side and for the right side. So now once I'm done, I'm cutting out that side that was folded to give one for two sides. As now I've separated them for each side. One side is the left and one side is the right. So now I'm taking it to my lining, and at this point you have to be very careful so that you can actually get exactly the size of the side of the breast, which is from that part that you notch, that part of the lining that was notched. If you didn't notch it well, you can come back and check with a measurement paper, measurement tape, like what I'm doing right now. I use a tape to make sure I get that 7. You can see 7 and 15 that I got, which is supposed to be the upper bust and the under bust. And I'm going to try, after doing this, I'm going to use the part to put under and make sure that it's set very well. So now I'm measuring that line there to be sure, to make sure that I'm on the right line and not on the wrong side. So you can see now I'm putting it under, and I want to set the breast. That part is a bit technical. Just make sure you set it well so that it is well placed and it looks like the part that you had cut off. Okay, I don't know if I'm trying to explain myself very well. You do it for the two sides of the cloth. So after that, I'm going to iron on it so that it can gum it. Don't forget that you put the gummy sides, the part you had cut off, to join it. And when you iron it, this is what it look like. Now I'm going to go over to the breast part for the top. This is what a breast part looks like. I'm going for the thick one, the medium thick one. There's a lighter one, then there's the thicker one. I think there's the thickest one or something, but this is the medium thick one. And you just fold it the same way we folded the gum stay. So we're folding it to the size of the top. I'm using it to measure the way I measured, which is 5 by 8. 8 inches is the space in between the upper bust and the under bust. So as you can see, I'm going to use a pen again. I'm trying to get that 5, so I don't want to waste my breast part. That's why you see me trying to make sure it's within the range of 5. Fold into 2. Once you get your 5, you mark it. So this is 5 now. As you can see, I got 5 and measured 5 there, and then I'm going to measure 8, which is the length between the upper bust and the under bust. That's exactly what I am doing right now. Now I'm going to draw a line there, so you can see a line from the sides of the nipple point to nipple point, half of the nipple point to half of the other nipple point kind of size. This for this one are for the side, so this is not for the middle though, but you use the same measurement, nipple point, half of nipple point measurement, to measure it. So now, having done that, I'm drawing the line at the side to make sure I get that line equal. Now I'm going to go to the middle to draw the C curve. Now that middle, I'm going to draw the C curve in between 3.5 and 4.5. Middle is 8. In middle is 4. That is half of it. So you can see the first point here was 3.5, and the second point, which at the other side, is 4.5. I don't know if you're getting me. Middle of that 8 is 4. The side of it is, the before 4 is 3.5, and after 4 is 4.5. So I just drew it from there so that I can make sure my C curve is well and very okay. Okay, can you see it? I don't know if you can see clearly. If it's understanding, to make sure your C curve is equal. Make sure it is equal when you are drawing it and looks okay. Then you cut it off. Very easy. You just cut it off, and just the same way I did the gum stay, you just cut it off. and then you cut into two, which is for the two sides. Okay, one for the left side and one for the right side. Now something I not mention: when you're folding, fold the gum sides together so that you use the gum sides to, you know, iron it on the top. Okay, so you fold the gum side of the gum stay when you are cutting it. Before cutting it, you fold the gum sides together. Now I'm going to put it under the same way I put the top, and I want to make sure I get my measurement right, even though I had notched it, but I still want to get measurement right by putting it on that 7 and 15. 15 minus 8 was 7, and now you can see I notched it again to be sure. Like I said, don't forget, when you are folding your breast part or gum stay, you fold the gum sides together. Like the gum side will be inside while the other ones will be outside, so that when you iron it on your top, is the gum sides that will be on the clothes. That's how you do it. Okay, now I'm putting it under the same way I put the for the lining, and I'm going to make sure I set it well. This thing is a bit tricky. If you don't set it well, it might not come out the way it should. So I just put it under, as the gummy side is facing the cloth, because that's what I'm going to iron. I want to place iron on it, it will now gum. So I'm placing it and I'm trying to set it to make it look as the part that we had cut off. Make sure the sides are ending at that point where you notch. You can see that place that ending. As I see my own, where my own is ending now, and it's at that point that you notch, and that is exactly there. For the middle, I'm going to be opening. You can see the middle was folded together, so I'm going to open it. I'm going to be placing it on top of the gum stay, the side that is gumming. I'm going to place it on top, and I'm going to place it from the point I notched. You can see that I had notched the points there. Yes, that part that you see cut with V, that's what I notched out. And then this is the place I'm going to iron from. You see this point that I'm pointing here? That's where I'm going to iron from to the points that I notch here. That's what I'm talking about. I'm ironing from this point to this point only. Those are the part that will gum the cloth. The other side will be cut off. So make sure that is what you iron. Okay, I'm going to do the same to the middle of the lining. Okay, the same with the middle of the lining, and that's exactly what I'm doing. You can see the point I notched on the lining. That's it, and to the point that's the part I'm going to iron. This is the middle of the lining for the top. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to iron it, and yeah, you can see it has gummed on it. See the part I ironed, you can see separate. You can see the part ironed and the part that is not ironed. This is how it is. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, cut it off. So I did the same ironing for the rest of them, the lining, the sides of the top. This side of the top, you can see I ironed it together and it's gummed to the sides of the top. Okay, then this one is the side of the lining. Yeah, and then this one, I'm going to cut it out. That's the side, that's the part that I don't need, which is the side that was not gummed to it. So I'm cutting that side out for the sides of the top. Okay, so I'm going ahead to cut that the part I don't need for the sides of the lining as well. Now for the middle of the top, you're going to see here that I'm just going to cut out this side here that I don't need, the part that I did not go, iron on. That's the side that I am actually, cutting out. This side here, as you can see, that's what I am cutting. If you notice, I was careful not to iron that other end where between the under busts and the waist and the remaining inch. You can see I was very careful, so I just cut off. I only iron the part I notch, which is under bust, to this thing. This is what it now turns out to look like. Very, very nice. You can see the point that I ironed. This is for the middle. This is upper bust to under bust. So I went ahead to do the same thing to that of the lining. Okay, all the parts I cut them off. So we're going to be sewing them together. Now before we sew, we're going to sew the paper back to our paper again with hand needle and thread for the paper, but for the clothes, of course, we're sewing machine. So for the hand needle, I did a simple hand needle. I'm going to be doing a hemming stitch, very simple hemming stitch, a simple stitch on it. So I just did the normal hand thread with needle for it. As you can see, this is the needle and this is our thread. We're going to sewing at the ends of the, so that you know how you sew it on the sewing machine. These ends, you see the middle to the side, the middle to the side, and the side to. When I'm sewing it, I'm careful to make sure that it is not too strong. I'm doing this because some people want to really know how to make it from home and they don't want to start going to a tailor shop. They don't have the time, and if you just want to try and see if you can actually get it, then this is the best way to start it. You just need your needle, thread, and exercise paper book. That's just it. That's all. You don't need to go to any other place. As you can see, it is. You can see what it looks like. Yeah. I finished doing one side of this thing. You turn it over like this. You will see that there's a bust. The bust side is lifted up. So let me do the second side so that we can really see the total result. Okay. You just do something simple, not something too serious. If you did home economics, if you're Nigerian, you did home economics, you will know that this is not difficult. This is just a simple, I think they call it hemming stitch when we're in junior secondary. This was our go-to. So yeah, we're done stitching. You can see the two sides. This is the middle stitch, these are the sides, and so it's just for you to bring it out, fold it out. Yeah, this is what, by the time you add your breast part to it, this is what it should look like, so that when you add your breast part, the breast part, you know, helps it. This is standing because it's a paper, you know, breast part stands while material clothes don't stand. So you can see what it looks like. It's taking the shape of a top. And yeah, should I bring it closer? Okay, yeah, that's right. This is the dart going forward to the front. If it's a princess dart for part in breast part, it will go from this angle, from the upper bust angle, where this upper bust line is. You can see where our upper bust line is. I don't know if you can see it. Let me bring it close. Where this upper bust line is, it will now go like this for princess dart. For normal dart, it's just going straight to the end. Let me bring it closer. So now we're going to be sewing the clothes. Now I'm starting with the lining. That's the one with gum stay. And to do the same way you saw me join the sides of the paper, the same way I'm joining it. This is the middle, and the other one here is the sides. That the sides here that I'm going to be joining the two them together. I showed you how to join with the paper, and I'm just going to put them, you know, together and then sew it. So this is what it turned out to look like. I just showing you how I sewed the side. You can see this side that I sewed it, and then when you turn it, it's going to now give you the bustier. Just push your hand inside the pad to give you the bustier, and I'm sure you really like how it is. We're now going to move into doing the same for the front, the main top, as in the main material with the breast part. So now we are now going to do the main top the same way I sewed it is the same way I want to sew, which is that edge here together, and sew the press padded part for the top together, just the way I did it. So right now we are sewing. So in case you want to see a recap of how I joined it, I just placed, the opposite sides against each other to sew it, just like this, like so. As you can see together, make sure they are equal, and I was very particular about equal so that the bust is not unequal when you sew it. Okay, so just watch and see what I'm doing. You can see here I'm very particular about it being equal. That's why I'm very neat with it. So now this is after being done. This is the result. So all you have to do is now turn it in, and then you now see the bustier. So now we have our bustier. Looks so beautiful. This is what a proper buster for a normal that looks like. So I hope you liked it. It came out really well. Okay, so now I want to measure the neck and cut it. Okay, so for the neck I took the wideness and the deepness. For the wideness I'm going to take 5 inches for this person, because the person's neck is 10, so half of it, which is half of the top side, is 5. And for the deepness I took 4, but you can see here I'm measuring the wideness, which is the way I'm measuring right now is the wideness. I took 5. Okay, and then I went ahead to check the deepness, which yes, that's what I'm doing right now, to check the deepness. And I took 4 inches, then I drew the line together, and then I would do the C curve around it and then cut it. I'm using a pen. You're supposed to use a chalk, but I prefer to use a pen than a chalk before. It's more precise for me. So I'm basically drawing the line between the deepness and the wideness to join each other. This is how I will know how wide and how deep it is. So after that I drew a C curve. You can see the C curve I'm trying to achieve here, if it is obvious. There are different kinds of curves. This particular curve is for a round neck. The neck you saw that of course you'll finally see when the cloth is done. That's exactly the type of neck I'm looking for. That's why I drew this style of C for the neck. As you can see, it's almost going like, not C, it's going like V. I don't know how to describe. It's more like a cone kind of shape at the edge. Okay, after that I cut it off. I didn't have the clip of the cut part, but this is the result of what the neck looks like. It's still a high neck, and it's still giving the beauty of the clothes, making the bustier more visible. As you can see, this is the result of the bustier with the neck. Okay, so I used that and traced the lining, and then joined the lining to the top. I don't know if you're seeing it. I joined it, then top stitched it. Let me show you what I did here. So to top stitch a cloth, actually, after joining the two opposite sides together, I now sewed on this part. Okay, I sewed on this part you're seeing here that has the lining, so that the lining and the cloth bends and becomes smooth and laps on the lining part. So this is the result after adding the back. So in the next video I will show you how I did the back, which I used a princess dart for that style, and how I did the peplum. On the next video you get to find that out, and also the skirt as well. So watch out for the next part.